Hi, welcome to this week's edition of Blue Soap. Again, John Dave and myself are going to look back over the last few weeks of the Rugby World Cup and, of course, look forward to Leinster's game against Connacht. And obviously, apologies for not being on the air for the last couple of weeks because I was away and we had some other couple of personal issues. Anyway, boys, so we had the World Cup. South Africa ran out winners. Surprisingly, I would have said, over England.
Yeah, they were certainly not favourites at any stage. They came from nowhere, really, didn't they? I mean, considering we trounced them less than 2 years ago, and that looked like the end of their road, and then enter Rassie, and it's been up ever since. And I remember thinking of all the guys, all the Springbok fans before the World Cup who were so
Enter Felix, don't you mean?
so confident.
Yeah, I have to agree with Mia culpa because I haven't been a huge fan of Rassie at all. I thought, that he had done a minimal amount with that Munster team. Turns out I'm looking at it the wrong way. He was a great coach, but they're even more shit than we thought they were.
Yeah, but in fairness now, hold on, just have to clarify that, right? He did take over a Munster team that didn't make it out of the pool stages.
That's a fair point.
And then, the following season, he got them to the semi-final of Europe and the final of the Pro 12. Do you know what I mean? So, he made a silk purse out of a sow's ear.
Yeah, no, I mean, to a certain extent I was being facetious, but I thought that Munster team was better than the results they were getting. But, maybe they weren't, but maybe that's why I'm sitting here and he's a World Cup winning coach. Fair play to Felix Jones as well.
Yeah. But, I have to say now, we were at the game, right? And you could see, it was almost like they roped England.
Yeah.
Even all the media over there, he was coming out, this is the way we play. We don't play any way different, we just take it on. We're not going to change for anyone. And England just bought into that hook, line and sinker. And they came in and they start running the ball. Now, they weren't very good at running it, but they did try to run it. And they just changed the rhythm of the game, and they just took after watching England's match against New Zealand the week before, I think they just played England superbly.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I only saw hour long highlights of the match because I was actually on an airplane. But it looks like one thing they did that was very South African was they absolutely screwed England into the ground at scrum time. Absolutely screwed them into the ground.
Yeah.
Well, one Sinclair came off, after 4 minutes.
Oh, King Cole has been found out, I think.
Yeah. It's probably one tournament too many for him at that level.
Yeah, I mean, it was just literally scrum. It was one of those things where you'd say, they're just going to knock the ball on their own 10-metre line just to get the scrum so they can get a penalty.
But we were saying during the game, would it not be in England's interest to feign an injury and get caught up and go for uncontested scrums? Okay, you're down, you're going to have to play.
You lose a player,
yeah.
But still, I'm telling you, because every time there was a scrum, even at half time, do you know what I mean? There was a needless opportunity. There was
Absolutely.
a scrum, and then it was 3 points. England were pounding their line, and South Africa's defence was just amazing.
It was amazing, yeah.
Amazing
Absolutely.
defence.
Well, it's I mean, one thing I will say about Rassie in genuineness, he's done amazing things with that team in terms of, he took over and there was lots of questions around the transformation stuff, lots of questions around, just the whole political, and not just in South African rugby, but in South African sport, and he has totally managed that situation.
Yeah.
And some people have said, "Oh, this is the first." Do you remember back in '95? Was it Louis Lloyd said at the post-match dinner for the World Cup final, "This was the first real World Cup because it's the first one we were in."
Yeah.
There's an element of, although Erasmus would never say it and the players would never say it because they're too, decent. But there's an element that this is the real South Africa's first World Cup.
Yeah, I was down at the Lions tour 10 years ago, and there was hardly any black supporters in the stadium that day in the first test in Durban when I was at, and there was a considerable number of black supporters that made it to Japan. Which I was surprised because I thought it was going to cost people a lot of money, and the economy's not doing great over there, but still let's say there's a mix of people are going to.
They found a way to support a team that represented them.
Yeah.
Because you had a situation where back in was it 1982 or 1985 anyway, England played South Africa, and South Africa had two black players on the pitch, Errol Tobias and Avril Williams, and then back in up in 2002 in the 2003 World Cup actually, South Africa had 2 black players on the pitch, so there hadn't been no significant changes. Now there are significant changes, and now there's a sense that Rassie Erasmus could nearly pick a team that doesn't necessarily have any black players, because the sense is he's picking a team on merit, or he could pick a team that has plenty for a huge number because he's picking on merit.
And when he picked the captain, it seemed to unite the whole team, or the country actually.
Good captain.
And a very inspiration, as you saw from his speech at the end of it.
Yeah, he's getting a lot of praise for that, justifiably, in my opinion. Just such a nice, humble kind of character. Like, in total juxtaposition to a lot of your perceived stereotypes about South African rugby fans or rugby players being arrogant or being he certainly isn't. Well, the players not so much, but certainly the fans can be a bit arrogant.
You kind of have that view of the
nobody else exists except them in New Zealand. Everybody else is rubbish.
The Irish, there's Donald Courtney, was it, who was refereeing, and an enormous Afrikaner guy came out of nowhere from the stands and flipped him over. I think he dislocated his shoulder.
It was Louis, wasn't it?
No, it wasn't. No. It wasn't Louis. I think it was Donald Courtney.
Oh no, it was Louis sat in the towel that time.
Yeah, that was in Twickenham. But anyway, he dislocated his shoulder, like, came over and...
Dave McHugh.
Was it Dave McHugh? Sorry, so like it was, it was kind of, that was the impression that you have of an Afrikaner as rugby fan.
Indeed, but he, and just such an inspirational story. The guy, his backstory and everything. He's just, what a guy. To be able to do all that from where he came from.
And not bad at the L Rugby either.
That's what I'm saying.
To be able at the L Rugby.
To be able to play and captain like that, after the start he had, is pretty inspirational. Everybody loves that kind of a story.
Yeah.
I do.
So it's kind of as a tournament goes, I thought it was a very open kind of tournament. Like, sometimes we see just one team dominating, but like if you look at the results, the opening game of the show was New Zealand beating South Africa.
Yeah.
Obviously they hammered us. Come on to that briefly. England then beat New Zealand, and then South Africa beat England. So there was kind of opportunities that other teams did get to win. Those games. Whereas, as we saw, say in other tournaments where one team just streaks away with it, and like New Zealand 4 years ago.
It kind of shows that rugby is such an on-the-day kind of a game. Like, how many tournaments, like Six Nations happens nearly every year. Team A, Wales beat Scotland, Scotland beat Ireland, Ireland beat Wales, or whatever. It's the same thing with this tournament. New Zealand beat South Africa. England beat New Zealand, and then South Africa beat. It doesn't, no logic to it.
Yeah.
It just shows you that, like, the same England team that come along and trounce New Zealand can come along a week later, and okay, maybe a couple of them were carrying injuries, and maybe South Africa were a little better rested, but they weren't actually, because South Africa played on the Sunday.
Yeah.
But the whole thing turns on its head again when South Africa come along and trounce England. Now, nobody was expecting that, as far as I could see, and England obviously just the bounce of the ball didn't go their way on the day, and once the momentum goes against you in rugby, it seems to be very
hard to shift it back.
Difficult, and even if you come out with the wrong mindset or the wrong game plan or the wrong whatever you come out with, it's very hard in the middle of a game. It seems to be. I've never played professional rugby, but it seems to be very hard to steer to get the ship back on side again. How do you do it? Once it's going in that direction, it seems that unless some massive energizer comes along where you bury somebody or you score a try, you do some huge game-changing event, it just seems to go against you.
England just never got an opportunity
to. At all, no.
And as I think I said earlier, like South Africa just changed the rhythm all the time.
Yeah.
And just didn't let England get into the game whatsoever. And when England did get into it, they won an opportunity. They pounded the line for maybe 20 phases.
In fairness, though, Eddie Jones is famous for the kind of Stuart Lancaster comfortable in chaos thing. Eddie Jones has been doing that for a long time, getting into the players' heads and putting them off. What's the word I'm looking for? Putting them on the back foot, basically, and trying to challenging them and trying to see what they will come out with, and keeping them off balance is what the phrase I was looking for. So, you know, you would expect, and the other big thing he has is fitness. They want to be the fittest team in the competition. Excuse me. They want to become the fittest team in the competition. Yet, South Africa managed to unbalance them, as you're saying. They managed to, you know, of any team you would expect England to be able to cope with somebody changing a game plan or keeping them, you know, that should be, you know, they should be able to expect the unexpected because that's what they've been trained for.
They were. I was in England at the tail end of last week, and they were very confident. Their supporters in England, anyway, very, very confident. I mean, to a certain extent, they were presumptive favourites going into that final. I mean, they'd beaten New Zealand. They've been playing very well all through the tournament. So their fans were I wouldn't say quietly confident, but I mean they were shouting around the place, but they were confident that England would win.
But you look at
and it was a reasonable confidence to have, in fairness.
So like if you look at their route to the final, like, you know, it's justifiable because, okay, I know there's going to be sort of mismatches in some of the pool stages, but they played America, fine. They beat Argentina. France they obviously didn't play against because of it, and then they beat Australia and New Zealand to reach the final.
Yeah.
Whereas South Africa's, you know, they played one kind of hard match against New Zealand
and lost
that. Then they played Italy, Canada. Okay, Japan were good, but you know, and that was their final.
They stuttered by Wales,
and then they stuttered by Wales and got into the final that way.
Everybody in the world was saying back in August that whoever won the England-New Zealand semi-final was going to win the cup.
Maybe
pan out that
Cathy
way.
was right and said that was their final.
Yeah, maybe. Who knows?
So it's the end of an era for Joe Schmidt
and Gatti and Michael Cheika. You know, there's a lot of churn now after the World Cup, and players and coaches, and Hansen, of course. Yeah. So that's, you know, four of the top 8 teams.
Yeah, and Conor
O'Shea.
Probably like most of the coaches actually.
Yeah, well, it's the end of a cycle. I mean, teams that will have succeeded will want to hang on to their coaches. Teams that have failed will want to get rid of them unless you're earned, of course, in which case there's no consequences whatsoever. But anyway, so, you know, you always get this churn after World Cup. I mean, what's noticeable this time is, I mean, it's the end of the noughties or the teens.
Yeah.
And the coaches who've dominated this period of rugby, with the exception of Eddie Jones, Hansen, Gatlin, Schmidt, you know, they're all shuffling off the stage temporarily, maybe for some, but currently anyway.
Do you think Farrell has been damaged by his association with the team?
No,
I don't think so. I mean, was he damaged by his association with the English team that failed to get out of their group? Was he? You know, it's all.
Well, no, I think that they were, both him and Lancaster were damaged. However much of it was their own decision, and however much of it wasn't. It took them a long time to get good jobs again.
But I don't know. Maybe he is, like, who knows? But I don't see. I mean, it's a clean slate for the guy. He's not going to go blooding 15 new players against Scotland on the 1st of February, but he's certainly going to do a little bit of experimenting and try and put his own stamp on the team, you'd imagine.
But that was one thing that I thought we just fell down against, was we just didn't pick on form. Like, there was fellas, you know, they don't have as big or as good a reputation as, but he didn't pick on form. Like, Rhys Ruddock was the form back rower. He didn't pick him, and the two wingers, you know, Conway and
Larmour.
Larmour were the form guys.
Were the form guys in the backs, and you could even make a point that Farrell was
ahead of Robbie Henshaw.
Yeah.
You
know, and yes, it was the fellas with reputation, and you just wonder then.
And even Luke McGrath pushed Conor Murray all the way as well. You know?
Exactly, and like, you know, you just wonder how demotivational that is when fellas are going, well, no matter what I do, I'm not going to get picked because he's picking Robbie Henshaw, who we could all clearly see was on one leg. You know what I mean? How demotivational must that be, going into training every day of the week? He's still going to pick him.
Yeah, indeed.
And I hope that's one thing that does come from Farrell taking over, that they, you know, it's not like Dad's Army that it's harder to get off the team than into the
I just feel that Joe Schmidt had nailed his Gunners to the mast, and you know, it's his
to
last
be honest,
tournament.
I
He's
don't
not
think it
going
mattered who the hell he picked, because the tactics were all wrong anyway.
Yeah,
we were playing rugby from 3 years ago.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
We never stood a chance. I mean, Joe Schmidt came in as Joe Schmidt, but he went out as Matt O'Connor.
Yeah. Like I think his reputation is damaged, you know, and it's a shame that it stretched back 9 or 10 years in Ireland and so much success. Yet this World Cup, hopefully, won't be, but it's kind of the last thing you do remember.
Yeah.
You know, and it's a shame that
You see,
he's gone out in such a whimper, really.
Yeah, the problem is that the public perception of the World Cup is that it's the World Cup. And by public, I don't mean the public. I mean the wider public, not necessarily the rugby sporting public. The wider public will watch a World Cup because it's a World Cup, and their perception of the team is based on the fact it's a World
Well,
Cup.
the most amount of people watch
Yeah.
any TV show this year watch the Ireland New Zealand
Yeah.
game. So
And-
you know, people who are, whether they want to watch GA or soccer, that
They'll
might
watch
be
a big
different.
World Cup match.
Correct, yeah.
So their perception of the Irish team is based on that. It's just another, you know. Whereas as rugby fans, you kind of, you can watch the World Cup with a certain amount of ambivalence. Well, not ambivalence. I mean, it's brilliant, and I love the World Cup, but within Irish rugby, does it matter that much?
Well,
What
it,
if we won
it
it?
doesn't
Huh?
exactly.
What if we won it?
If we won it, yeah.
It
Now, hold
doesn't
on,
because we
saying
can't
that-
get past the
In
quarter final.
saying
And
that,
there's no consequences for us failing to do so any time ever.
Yeah, well,
but in
what
saying that, Dave,
consequences
it
do you
does
want?
matter. There was somewhere between 25 and 30,000 people in the stadium in Japan,
Mm.
7,500 kilometers away. So
Yeah, but
what I mean is,
I'm talking about.
no, no,
They're the rugby people.
but like, well, look at
Yeah, I
there was
suppose, yeah.
people there who saved up for it. It was a big
Mm.
holiday. It was part of, you know, not necessarily rugby fanatics. There was, of course, there was rugby fanatics at it, but there was also people who live in Singapore, who live in Australia, who headed up for it and be part of it. I couldn't get over the amount of people in their late 20s, early 30s.
But
That
for
was-
Australia and New Zealand and stuff.
From Irish people. I don't know where they were from.
Yeah.
Like it
Not,
was
not from, sorry.
yeah,
Who came
who
come
came.
from.
I'm not sure
yeah.
where they were from, whether they were from Dublin or from Ireland or from points in between. But there was an enormous amount of Irish there for it, and as I said, it's just a pity that it's kind of he went out on a whimper because
My
he-
point of view on it is if it mattered, heads would roll. No heads have rolled. No heads rolled in 2015, none in 2011, none in 2007, none in 2003, none in 99, none in 95. You know, if it mattered, if it's that important and the failure is that bad, then there's got to be consequences. There are no consequences. There's never any consequences for a World Cup failure because it doesn't matter that much.
well, it did for Gatland.
It did forget. Well, he got caught in a bit of a
Sting
in
operation.
a sting operation. So he did between Eddie O'Sullivan, George Hook, and Keith Wood. In fairness, you know, there was all sorts of stuff going. It was night of the very long knives.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, we have a bad habit of re-signing coaches just before World Cups.
Yeah,
or just
we
before,
always extend their contract the year before a World Cup.
which is not, it didn't happen this time, but like
this is the first.
the
one.
head, the head.
Although we did appoint a successor the year before the World
That's
Cup.
true. Yeah, the head was rolling anyway this time. Whether we won or lost, just would have been nice. Like after all, Joe Schmidt has done for Irish rugby, and he has done a lot, an awful lot.
An immense lot, and it's sad to see, not see him go this way because I mean he led out with his head held high. He's won 3 championships, including a Grand Slam. He's won so many Heineken Cups, He's won all that stuff.
He's won everything.
But I mean, to a certain extent, a coach's life is a bit like a high jumper. It always ends in failure.
Yeah.
You know, and that's how it ends.
Almost always.
We do have to give kudos to whoever's in charge of elite coach development in Ireland for letting Felix Jones go.
Well, no, it wasn't that long ago that people were clamouring and saying, well, Munster are devoid of any options in attack, and it's a joke that he was appointed, and he was obviously a cheap option. So, you know, like
Can't have it both ways.
you can't have it always, but I initially thought that it was a bit of a smart move by Razzie trying to get him in there because the likelihood was we all thought at the start of the tournament that Ireland were going to end up playing South Africa in the quarter final, and it was to put one up Joe Schmidt because Felix had actually been on tour with Ireland
In Japan.
In Japan,
Yeah.
Well, Larkham looks like he's already having an effect on Munster. So
What's the name of that winger they found? Big lad. I think he's come out of their academy this year. Cutting the place apart, Munster. Is it Doyle or Shane something or other? Shane O'Neill. I can't remember his name.
no, me neither. I know the guy you mean.
big, pacey, powerful. Jeez.
Yeah, well, they could be the coming force in Irish rugby. You never know.
Well, they're going to be supplemented,
they've
so
got-
it seems, by a couple of World Cup winners.
Yeah, that's right. I was thinking on the way over, like, there's what do you call him, Graham Rowntree in Munster now, and Ireland have got South African Mike Catt coming in to do the attack coach. Farrell already there, and Lancaster. Like, there's the England coaching team from the 2015 World Cup, all four of them in Irish rugby, through whatever circuitous routes, but I'm sure they all had
I suppose now that
a hand in each other.
going back to the original thing, I suppose now that Joe Schmidt's gone, they can get rid of the shit South African he foisted upon them and sign a good one in Orgy Snyman, and they can get rid of Jean Klein. He was he the worst player in the Irish squad in that World Cup?
He was disappointing, all right. I'll give you that.
The idea that he was there.
He's a
and
good
that-
man to lock out a scrum, but I've never
Was
been
he?
impressed.
Was he actually?
I've never
no,
been
I don't
impressed.
think he was. I don't think he was a good man to lock out a scrum.
I've never been impressed
He
with
was
the
rubbish.
guy in general play.
Upton Delan, Billy Holland, Devon Toner,
Quinn Rue,
Quinn Rue would all have done better than him.
possibly.
Hubris.
But
It was,
anyway,
it was an ironic picture when he came out directly out of the arrivals in Tokyo, and there was an enormous poster on the side of a wall of Devon Toner. I thought, how ironic is that?
Are you sure that wasn't like Godzilla or something? And you just
Yeah, so they might have a couple of new signings then, Munster way.
yeah, it's looking very, very like it, all right.
D'Alende's a big sign. I mean,
It's not going to be until next season.
it's not going to be until next season, but that's a big one coming in.
He'll suit Munster too, although Willie and Larkin's finished with them. Maybe he won't suit them.
Well, he might. Larkin might do something with him, kind of thing. You know, so.
He's bound to.
Well,
Although I mean, we're talking. It's hard to know. I mean, it is at the phony war stage of the season still. Like,
Of course.
you know, the teams with the big squads always dominate this time of season, this time of the year, because they can cope with losses. I mean, you're going to talk later about the damage Leinster are doing.
well, before we get on to that, we'll just talk about South Africa B, which aka Saris.
I thought you were going for Munster
Yeah,
there for a minute.
Okay,
Take your pick.
The turn up free state.
saying here. Well, Saris are in a bit of trouble, so it seems they've been fined about €6 million and
Yeah.
docked
Deducted
35 points.
points.
So they were obviously investigated by Premiership Rugby, and
Yeah, and found wanting.
and they saw that there was quite a lot of property and investment deals done between various
Players and
different
Nigel Ray and
players.
stuff.
Yeah,
But, people are getting very excited. I wouldn't get too excited about it yet. There is an appeal.
there is an
There will
appeal,
be an
It
appeal.
and
just seems
they're
that there's
unrepentant.
a lot of people are coming out. The head coach of Exeter came out.
Yeah.
Very
The owner of
damning.
Exeter, the chairman.
And also the coach, what's your man's
Now,
name?
I was actually, funny enough, I was listening to him on
Even Rob-
Talksport today.
Rob Shaw came out today,
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
strong.
I was listening to the chairman of Exeter.
Tony
on,
Rowe.
Yeah, on Talksport today. I just happened to be listening to it in the car, and he was quite annoyed that he'd been misquoted. He didn't say that Saris should be
Relegated.
relegated. That was the report. It was Exeter's chief calls for Saracens relegation. He didn't say that. He said that the penalty for this misdemeanor should be automatic relegation, and that if Saracens, but he wasn't actually specifically calling for Saracens, but he still thinks it should be relegation.
Yeah.
35 points is a big thing. I don't think it'll finish at 35
Well,
points. I'd say it'll end up
20.
at 20 points and 15 suspended.
Maybe so, but Rob Shaw came out absolutely damning on it. You know, and
Yeah.
he, former England captain of Harlequins, he more or less said, "Look, we can't. We're a bit of a joke shop now. If we're trying to gain any moral high ground over other sports, we're equally as bad or even worse."
I mean, there's no question about it. It's financial doping. That's what they did. I mean, the idea that a club... I mean, would Saracens have won the Premiership last year if they didn't have the ability to somehow
Bring
sign
on Will
Liam
Scotland
Williams or sign player X or Y when other teams are going, "Oh, how the hell are they getting all these guys in under the salary cap? We can't afford these guys." And Sarries go, no, we're all we're all in under the salary cap and all that kind of stuff without the extra investment stuff. And those players like Liam Williams and those extra players, add that 5 or 10% you need to win a
Of
tournament.
course.
Well, I don't think, in fairness, that although if you look at us playing Sarries in the Champions Cup final, what did for us was especially their bench that was able to come on and
Yes.
pound us, and that's
And
part
that's-
of having a big squad. However, I don't think it's Leinster fans shouldn't be necessarily up in arms about Sarries, because Sarries broke rules made by Premiership Rugby, which have nothing to do with Europe.
Yeah, there's no salary cap in Europe.
There's no salary cap in
Well,
Europe.
it's how they qualify.
The
right?
argu- yeah, well,
It
that's
is
what I was
how
gonna
they
say. The argument
qualify,
is
but-
I mean, they probably would have finished top 5 anyway.
Exactly,
but,
they would have. But at the same point,
But they might have
Leinster
qualified
Leinster don't operate under a salary cap. Yes, we have some form of control of our players by the
Well,
union.
a lot. A lot.
We
Yeah,
have.
my question to you about that, John, would be: so what? That's you play by the rules of the organisation you're part of. And
Absolutely.
Leinster don't have a salary cap. France has its salary cap. England has its salary cap. Scotland doesn't have a salary cap. Wales have whatever the hell they have. But you're subject to the rules of your union.
Absolutely.
And the rules of the
But
so I mean,
my
compare-
point
say-
is this,
say-
though,
say-
Dave. My point
say-
is that if it's not up to me as an Irish citizen to say whether the British should have a monarch or should be a republic. It's not none of my business. And in the same way, it's none of my business whether Saracens broke the salary cap as a Leinster fan.
Yeah. Oh
It's
no,
none-
I
it's none of my
agree.
business.
I mean, we're not getting the Heineken Cup for last year. Like that's
No.
not going to happen. No matter what
No,
happens, that's
and
not going to happen.
nor would I really want it.
No,
Would you?
I don't think the players would. They'd much salary cap or anything like that. They want to win it on the pitch.
Exactly.
But I suppose what it does do is it highlights, and maybe it'll level our playing pitch a little bit.
Mhm.
You know, it wasn't so long ago we were saying, oh well, like that's the end of Irish rugby. You know, maybe only 3 or 4 seasons ago, because we can't compete financially and so forth.
Well,
and,
it's it's well kind of, well, I wouldn't say well publicised, but it's well speculated on that Leinster, and a few people have said it in high places, that Leinster generally spend to the salary cap in the Premiership,
Yeah.
not to the one in France, and that maybe Connacht don't, definitely. Munster and Ulster are probably a little bit behind Leinster in terms of their spending on players. And that's if you include all the central contracts and yada, yada, yada. So, we're not, I don't think if the English Premiership teams keep to the salary cap, I think Leinster can compete with them financially, that they can, offer the same salaries to their players. So, I don't have a problem with it. It'd be great if they did.
but like, if
Adhere to the salary cap.
It should be. I just add on to that. This is a salary cap that the English clubs imposed upon themselves, so their owners could continue to make profits.
Yeah.
or
This is
to negate
or to
some of the
or to
loss.
minimise their losses. But that's why it's not there out of altruism. It's there out of greed. Let's just remember.
Well, it was
like-
put in place when London Scottish and Richmond went bust,
It was put in place when the owners of London Scottish and Richmond went bust.
walked away. Yeah.
But like, if you just sort of expand the argument a little bit, and you look at Munster now, right? They've bought some awful dud players, whereas we've said this lots of times before. Just get 2 really good players, which they've done now,
Done
right?
it now, yeah.
But instead of having the John Kleins and the Arno Botas and the Chris Kalutes and all the other, not duds, but you know what I mean, mid-ranking
they're
players.
good players,
They're
not
good,
great
but not
players.
great players, right? Whereas if you get 2 star players, like 2 lads that are starting for their national team, winning World Cup medals, like that's only going to increase interest in your club, get
Absolutely.
bums on seats, get season
course.
tickets sold, get jerseys sold,
Yeah.
and obviously then that hopefully will translate to success on your pitch. Likewise, do you remember about 10 years ago or more when we had Contepomi, CJ Van der Lind, Rocky Elson, you know what I mean?
Nasiwa.
Nasiwa.
Say what?
You know what I mean? Really big name stars coming into the team instead of mid-ranking guys that you've never really had.
I think there was a bit of a shopping frenzy, a shopping spree, in the last year of the 3-year thing. Once it was announced it was going to 5, clubs.
Well, that's why we got James Lowe, yeah.
Yeah, that's what we got. James Lowe in. They got
Clute.
I mean, teams went a bit not spendy crazy, but signing crazy just to make sure they had guys in on the thing. if we were in the same situation and we were looking at 3 years, you should always be looking, is the guy we're signing as good as the current Irish incumbent? You know, because that's why we're signing him. We're signing him to play for Ireland. I mean, so while signing, I don't know, Chris Cluter or Jean Klein,
Right.
they're not any on that ballpark. Where
But they probably could fit their budget, and you could spread it out over
yeah,
5 or 6 other players. You know?
Yeah, but that's always the case, isn't it? What do you do? Do you sign?
But
like
I'm
what-
saying, if you get 2 star players,
Absolutely. And it's going more that way now for 2 reasons.
Well-
One, the 5-year rule, and 2, the fact that the provinces, certainly the 3 major ones financially, seem to be restricted to 3 overseas signing. The fact that there's no project players, like Ulster, for example, have gone out and signed 3 non-Irish qualified players who will never qualify for Ireland. Munster have obviously signed 2 World Cup winners who will never play for Ireland.
there also seems to be a move
We've got
towards,
2 Australian internationals who will never
Yeah.
play for Ireland.
There also seems to be a
the way
move
it's going.
towards signing player. If we're signing overseas players, who are Irish qualified through the IQ system, like Billy Burns or Will Addison,
Yeah.
and there are others like
Yeah.
that. And
Chris
that seems
Farrell and Munster.
Chris Farrell. Well, he's
But
Irish.
I know, but they brought him back from
Yeah,
France.
Yeah.
So there seems to be that move away from, well, obviously because of the 5-year thing, the move away from the project player and towards the English, maybe New Zealand, maybe Australian, maybe even South African, or you never know from where next, Irish qualified player
Mhm.
who can hit the ground running and play for Ireland in the morning if they have to.
Well, that's always been a target. I mean, the
Yeah, but
Irish
it's-
have been
it's-
going
it's-
around the world trying to
it's-
dig up somebody with a granny.
It's more important now. It's become
course.
more important now for the RFU now that the project player route is
That door's kind of closed.
has become, it's become a 1-lane Bowreen from the
Well-
highway it was.
well-
Well,
I
what
mean-
it's really done is it's put the thing back in age. So now you're going to be getting your Knoxes and your guys like that.
Salonis.
But it's a complete punt. You
It
don't
is,
know
of
what
course.
Oh
way.
yeah, you're taking a huge
You're
risk.
taking a huge risk,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you're
You,
putting a lot.
you sign an 18-year-old. It's a massive risk.
Of course.
You know, I mean, we've got what's his name, Roman Salanawa in the academy.
Yeah.
Munster have obviously Kenyon Knox.
Who's a 3-year? He got in under the 3-year.
He got in under the 3, but they signed him at 80, and the guy they signed with him, remember they signed the second one, he didn't work out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, you're already at a 50-50 strike rate there kind of thing. So
Before you get to the end of the
Yeah.
academy. I'm not sure. Salanoa, did he get in under the 3-year himself? Because he's been playing. You only have to be playing rugby in the country. I think he might have been one of the.
I
last.
genuinely don't know.
Is this
don't know.
the Hawaiian guy?
Yeah.
Hawaiian American.
Yeah. Well, all Hawaiians are American.
It's within. He's a Hawaiian American. That's his. Anyway.
So, sorry, do
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
you have any questions, Dave?
Not really.
No.
Actually, yes, we do. We have one that might kind of lead us. Oh, hold on. People are talking, not.
Is our sound gone again?
No. Apparently, people. Will Lads pick up any World Cup stars? Some
That's a
people
good
say
question.
they hope not. It's a fair point. Used to the young lads this season, the international lads. You see, it's a good question that about the young fellas. But it's hard to know how good they are because, like I say, it's the phony war period. You can look at them and you can look at, say, you look at a player like, I'm trying to think of one. We say Hugo Keenan or Max Deegan or Ryan Baird or Quaylen Doris or Scott Penny, and it's obvious that they're going to be good enough. But there's other guys that there's kind of questions around.
Mm-hmm.
You're not really sure just yet. You'd have to see them in more advanced action. But there's
Tyke Byrne, for example. There's a man that we let slip through the net at the time.
Yeah, we did. It
With
was
the benefit of hindsight, of course.
the benefit of hindsight. It was purely with the benefit of hindsight.
Yeah.
He wasn't happy. He had been injured a lot. He just wasn't he wasn't happy being at Leinster anymore. The happiness had gone out of it because he was injured so often. Wasn't he thinking of going back, like leaving professional rugby
Oh, he
entirely?
was, yeah. Should we get a big signing from the World Cup? Yeah, of course. We've like Munster. We have nobody signed past next
past
year who's
next-
going to be
yeah.
Irish, non-Irish qualified.
Well,
Lowe is-
Fardy is looking like we extended him for one more year.
Mm.
You know,
I
maybe
think we're going to go to.
I don't know. Maybe they will.
We might.
They might.
He wouldn't be a bad signing, but in terms of a, big time, just won the World Cup or whatever, or just New Zealand player or somebody like that, who's going to come in and probably a more mature guy is going to come in for 2 years and bring on the next generation of whatever it is we're looking for, hookers, second rows, wingers, whoever. Somebody like that. Who's out there, Jason? Who are we going for?
Brodie Retallick.
Brodie Retallick. Well, there's a target for you.
Yeah.
I think his
anything less would be a disaster.
his life is mapped out, and what's his partner has signed a 4-year contract with a break in Japan, Sam Whitelock. So he's there for the next World Cup.
There are positions we don't need players in though.
Well, this is it. Where do we need them?
Where do we need them? I think we
Well, see,
need.
Fardy could go, so then you do need.
Yeah.
Well, you look at it. I mean, Fardy go. Toner will go in probably a year later.
Yeah.
But
There's
then
three great players coming up.
Ryan Baird. You've got.
But they're
Ross
just
Maloney, Charlie Ryan.
Now, are you going to win a European Cup with those lads?
in a few
take
years.
out
you might.
Ryan from that equation.
Yeah, I would suggest so. We got to a World Cup final with them.
But this is the thing. Like you've got 3 guys. Okay, Ross Maloney we know about, but he's older than James Ryan. The 3 younger guys, Charlie Ryan, Ryan Baird, and Jack Dunn, who are the 3 guys that are coming up. All 3 of them are just that little bit too young and untested.
They need to be mentored.
They need somebody like
somebody
Scott
maybe in the
Fardy.
middle there.
So maybe we do need a second row for a year or two to replace James Ryan when he's on Irish duty. How long more are we going to get out of Toner? Who knows? He could go another 5
what we
years.
need is the
He's
guy-
not that old, but
And it's actually the guy that we've had a lot of success signing. I mean, we had Nathan Hines. Then we had Brad Thorne for a while, but then we had Hayden Triggs, and then we had Scott Fardy. The real good professionals who are there. On a mucky night in Newport to help shepherd. I think that's the guy we need.
Yeah.
Rather than the Brodie Retallick.
so you do agree that we do need a guy in there.
If we're going to sign a guy in there, that's the guy we need. Somebody who's in between the maybe in his mid to late 20s, on that profile. But I'm not entirely certain that we need them to win a Heineken Cup kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, anyway, we'll see.
What other positions do we need them? If we do need them,
Well, would you say we're a bit light in the back row? I mean, we've lost a considerable amount of talent in
Jordy Murphy, for example.
Sean
O'Brien.
O'Brien. Good news. I see the European Cup squad. I saw it announced. There's a couple of surprises in it. Dan Levy
being
was
named,
named.
Yeah.
Was
Well,
Scott Penny wasn't.
That's because of a particular thing you can do this year.
Yeah, there's a
Because of the World Cup, you can swap out as 5 guys.
but 3 of them I think have to be front rowers.
No. There's an extra dispensation this year.
No, I
because of the World
understand
Cup.
that, but I think of
I
those,
don't think so. No, I don't think so.
I think they do.
You can swap out a load of
You can
guys
check
anyway
it.
and swap them back in with no penalty because
Yeah.
of the World Cup.
But they can only be replaced by the guy. So if you swap Levy out for Penny,
then Levy has to come in for Penny.
He has to come back in for Penny. He can't come if Penny gets injured or
You couldn't
somebody
put in
else.
Will O'Connor.
gets
Although
injured.
he's already there, I think.
Will Connors is there.
Yeah.
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 So, basically, it's a bit of a risk if in a position like back row where you've got a bit of depth or you've got enough players named in the squad, it's worth a punt. But we're all hopeful that Dan Levy's going to be back by the business end of the season.
Yeah, and we also have to remember that we do have the current Irish number 7 coming back fit.
Yeah, which is nice.
Yeah, it's. I mean, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 number 7s.
Yeah.
We're not short of them.
But then Conan's out injured. He's out till
Six Nations
part of the
ish.
Six Nations. So I think we're a bit light. I do think we're a bit light in the back row, boys.
Is Conan named? I think he was.
He was named,
Yeah.
but again,
So they went to a snatchback with him as well.
So Leinster remain unbeaten in the Pro 14. We've won our opening 5 games. In those games, lads, we've averaged 35.5 points per game.
And that's with a 3-0 in there.
That's with 3-0 against
It's killing my hard disk, guys. Storing all those tries.
Do you have them from the
I do,
weekend?
Jason.
Should lash them up there, Dave. It's my
Here we
fault.
go, the man with the hottest scoring streak in European sport, Mick Bent. Goes 100,
doubled his
goes
try.
160 squillion games without a try, and then gets 2 in 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
But he's the ideal player for us. A guy who can scrummage to that level during this period of the season is gold dust.
Mm-hmm. Well, I used to frequently call him the best third choice prop in Europe.
Yeah.
While he's probably slightly getting to the aging point, but he's not huge mileage, and prop is a position you can generally go on for a few years. So could be a few years left in the tank yet for Mr. Bent.
Was there a good crowd at the game?
It wasn't bad. It was the Dragons, and it was a very dodgy night. Not as dodgy as the Saturday night, but
A nice rugby here.
beautiful.
Dave Carney's in good form.
Kearney got a brace, didn't he?
Yeah. He's got a fair few tries this season so far. And there's Martin. How many Martin? Strange to see him without a bass guitar in his hands.
The man with the hat.
I mean, Dave Carney would have been the guy who had, hopes of going to that World Cup. You have to say, you can't fault his attitude for Leinster when he...
No, you have to admire fellas like
Yeah.
that, don't you?
He really
It's
does.
called professionalism.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm sure he's disappointed and
Of course.
Yeah, nice play from Scott Penny there.
In fairness, though, the Dragons are not exactly a high standard of opposition. In fairness to them,
No.
especially when we're playing them at home, we probably put up a bigger fight now in Rodney Parade. As soon as they beat Glasgow there the previous week.
They only have, 3 top players and all 3 are missing, that kind of thing.
Did Amos go abroad yet? Or not abroad, but to Cardiff? I heard
I
he
don't
was,
know.
Yeah. He was supposed to be moving to one of the other regions. Don't know if he's still playing for the Dragons.
I was impressed with Harry Byrne.
Yeah, he looked the business, didn't he?
Yeah.
he got in ahead of Frawley in the European squad.
Yeah.
Yeah, that might be another one where. Although who's he going to swap out for? No, I don't think Frawley's perhaps going to get in. But yeah, he looks to have the same box of tricks as his brother with the bit of pace and,
Yeah,
and
he
a
has
bit of a
that, he has
breaking
that
threat.
extra pace. Yeah.
Seems to be the biggest criticism of Ross is that he's not really a breaking threat. Partly because of his lack of pace.
Jack Conan described him as the worst athlete in the club. I see the Knights changed here in the second half.
Yeah. It did lash.
This was the customary, by now customary Ronan Kelleher try.
Uh-huh. There's a man who's on fire with the try scoring.
Do you reckon he's overtaken Tracy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Byrne obviously is going to drop down the pecking order as well there.
Isn't he coming back from injury?
Yeah, I'm not sure he's fit.
Yeah, it's always been very hard to figure out whether Byrne or Tracy, who's been ahead of. I think they've been kind of neck and neck.
Yeah.
Byrne would get ahead of Tracy get ahead of Byrne,
Then Byrne gets injured.
and then Byrne gets injured. So
Well, Kelleher has
We've now
one
got-
significant advantage over Tracy. He can be relied upon to find a cow's arse with his banjo. With Tracy, it's a lottery.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's a
none
lot
of our hookers
a
are
lot
amazing.
of a lot of
No, none of them are
a
amazing.
lot of
but-
Irish hookers have
Yeah,
that
I know,
problem.
and it is a thing, but Tracy is more so. It is a nice rugby here.
The customary crossfield kick from a Byrne at out half, and a nice
nice
little
play.
interplay.
Yeah.
Oh, lovely.
Everybody got very excited about Cheslin Colby stepping 3 guys.
Cheslin Carney can do it too.
Yeah.
Chislin Carney. Or maybe you could call him the Chisler Carney, since he's the younger brother.
Yes, okay, John.
Wanting to stretch a metaphor as far as it can possibly go.
Until it twangs. That was a nice bit of rugby.
It was lovely
He
interplay.
hit Carney on the fly, on the run.
Precision in that crossfield
Yeah.
kick. They're obviously, what that back garden has been used for in the Byrne house.
Yeah.
That's terrible defending, doesn't it?
It is. Comedy.
One, two,
Keystone
three.
Cops. I've forgotten this one. Is that Conor O'Brien making a few
Yeah.
hard yards?
He does make the yards, so he does.
He's a big unit.
Yeah, he's a tough
For a
man.
12.
He's hard.
He's Robbie Henshaw sized.
Mm.
In fact, are they both from Westmeath?
Yes, they are. They're both
Mullingar and Athlone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's one. Yeah, and Henshaw's Athlone. Yeah. One of the easiest tries that James Lowe. Well,
Will ever
the
score.
second easiest try he'll ever have to score, because the first easiest try was the next one.
It looks like he thought the whistle had gone because he got nearly stopped.
Forward pass. I'm not even going in under the post. Give you something to do.
Yeah. There's good play here from Ronald Loughlin, in fairness. Rory Loughlin kept the ball active.
Yeah. I've seen a good bit of Harry Byrne in the A games, though. He just has, obviously in A games you're going to have more time on the ball, but he just has time to pass and to,
And here's the easiest try he'll ever score. Come on.
okay. Here, you take it, James.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, that was simple. None of the three of us would have scored it, but other than that,
God, no. We wouldn't even have been able to catch it,
hold on,
let alone run.
there was a 50-metre run there, lads.
Yeah. We wouldn't have been able to catch it, let alone run the 50 metres,
No,
Jay.
true.
I would have caught it. I would have got 20 yards at least.
And then knocked it on.
Then got tackled by about 4 dragons.
Mm.
Comedy and all, as they were.
But what that game does, though, we did have a question in from that Mick Thompson lad who keeps stalking us. Annoying
You
fecker.
think, you think you didn't want anybody listening to this thing?
I want other people to listen to it. I want a better quality of listeners.
That's very harsh, poor Mick.
On our poor viewer.
Such a
He
lovely
says,
chap.
which players, if any, of our World Cup boys will play this weekend? Which I think is a nice way to lead into our Connacht discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah, excellent question, Mick. I think they're going to go as full bore as possible. Obviously, they're not going to go absolute full bore, but I think I think Sexton will play. I think there'll be quite a few people in there. I think there'll be quite a few people in there that you wouldn't necessarily expect going down to Connacht. We did it last year, as far as I remember.
I think Henshaw kind of has to play.
And he hasn't played down there since he left.
Yeah.
I heard Sexton been interviewed in Cardiff today at the launch of the
Heard that, yeah.
European Cup, and he certainly was
With the empty chair
hinting.
beside him.
Was that?
The empty chair beside him.
Yeah, yeah. But he certainly was hinting as
That he'd be
he
going
wants
down,
to play.
yeah. No, I think he will, and I think most of them will. Anybody who's not carrying a knock, for example, Cronin, we know, is carrying a knock and won't play. And anybody who's 50-50, they're not going to bring down. Also, because I know no insult to Treviso, but we do have the easiest of our games, Treviso at home.
Yeah, and
To
that's
start,
what I'm
so-
saying about Henshaw. Because as things stand, he doesn't make the matchday squad.
Mm.
You know, he has been injured a lot, and then he kind of lost form, and he got stuck into. In fairness, been picked at fullback, and then in a difficult situation over in Japan.
I think
But he hasn't been playing well. As a result of all these things,
who do you put in a Heineken Cup match instead of him? Tamani?
Joe Tamani, Conor O'Brien,
Conor O'Brien.
have both been playing better than him. I mean, we're talking earlier about did Joe Schmidt pick on form? Pick on form. So that's why he has to play against Connacht. Because if he displays enough form against Connacht, then you can use that. Well, he has some form and he's got the back catalogue, as it were.
Yeah.
You know, so that's. But I think it's really important for him and for Leinster that he plays against Connacht. How he plays, then we'll see.
Well, this might well be out. This episode might well be out before the team is named. I know it's gone out now on Facebook, but it might be a podcast before
Might.
before our team is named at midday tomorrow. But I would imagine, yeah, like Luke McGrath and Sexton. I would imagine Henshaw and Ringrose. I would imagine. Don't know about Rob Carney at fullback. Maybe, maybe not. But you've enough there. You've got James Lowe, and you've got a choice of
I think.
Larmour and Carney and.
But this team, like there was
Shitloads more.
14 of the Irish panel, and a lot of starters
Yeah.
are from Leinster.
Mhm.
You know, I think they could be pretty damaged after what happened in Japan. There was a
I think
lot
they
of
want to get back on the horse.
yeah, there was a lot of expectation, and they went out. They lost 2 games. They were whipped by New Zealand. They kind of, for want of a better word, they let themselves down against New Zealand, and they were beaten by Japan. Now Japan were a good side, probably blindsided them or whatever the reason. But they came home from that tournament with 2 losses and didn't really cover themselves in any glory, even in the other games. And you wonder if they're going to be damaged, if they're going to have hang-ups over it, or can they just put it to one side and move on and just start a season from afresh, as if this is game 1 of the new season.
Some will be able to, because obviously, I mean, there's no one size fits all. Some guys will want to get out on that pitch as soon as possible to, get back to what they like doing. Some might need an arm around the shoulder, or whatever. But there's guys. I mean, as you say, there's 14, but there's guys who've had relatively low mileage.
Yeah.
Who are over there? Rhys Ruddock, Andrew Porter.
Absolutely.
So there's guys like that who you could put straight in, kind of thing.
So moving on to the forwards, would you have Porter and Porter starting and Furlong on the bench, maybe?
Yeah.
Would that be a way to go? Would Kelleher get a? You've no Cronin, so or is it?
No,
it's probably going to be Kelleher and Tracy.
I suppose we'll see the mindset of the coaches now. They've had 5 games with the B team.
Cian Healy straight back on the horse or not?
He seems to be a guy who enjoys that, though, isn't he?
Yeah,
In the
he
past,
is,
he does like he likes to hit the ground,
He does. He's a fair amount of caps for both Leinster and
Yeah,
Ireland.
he has a lot of. I mean, he plays a lot of games for both teams.
Yeah.
So I'd say that look, we don't know the players.
James Ryan, Devon Towner, Scott Fardy.
I'd say they might. James Ryan is still a young player. You don't want to put too much miles on him when they're not necessary. Maybe give him a bit of a break.
He made out of granite though.
He played every minute.
Yeah, and he was. I mean, he was our best player in this World Cup. I mean, but if you have an opportunity to give him a bit of a break, then take it, because we have Devon Toner, we have Scott Fardy.
Now they've had 3 weeks off.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, we have guys who can.
Yeah.
Who can cover for them, and and as you say, Treviso, although they're a much better side than some of the results this season.
And what about their?
They are if you want to start a European Cup campaign, Treviso's the team you don't start against.
From what looked on paper, a relatively easier pool than some of the other ones, it actually is turning out to be quite a tricky one. You've got Leon. I think they've only lost 1 game so far. Northampton, okay, I know they've only played a few games, but they're still top of the Premiership, and we're top of our pool.
Again, you have to look at it in the sense of, did Leon lose many players to the World Cup compared to the other traditional?
Fine, but
and it's the same in England.
Okay, I appreciate that, but they've played 8 games so far in France, which is a quarter,
mental, isn't it?
which is either a third or a quarter of their
26 games. So.
Yeah, so it's a third of the matches within their regular season.
Yeah.
So what I mean is that if you're down the bottom like Racing or
you won't be as interested in Europe.
possibly not. So maybe that
If
Munster's
you-
pool
well, if
might
you-
become a little bit.
If you're at the top of the tour, of the top 14, which is the overriding concern of every, you might not be as interested in Europe.
That's agreed to.
A lot of times we've had first up games. I remember we had Racing first up once or twice. We had Montpellier first up once or twice, and they were going really, really well in the top 14. And they came over to Dublin, and they were like a wet paper towel. In terms of the resistance they put up. So
We'll see.
Right to know, yeah.
Let's see. We're getting ahead of ourselves now.
yeah,
lads.
very much so.
Getting ahead
That's,
of ourselves.
that's a fair while. down the road.
So back row to finish off. Are we going to throw Ruddock and Van der Fleer straight back in there, or one of them, or either of them, one of them on the bench?
Definitely play Ruddock.
Yeah, he's low mileage in the World Cup.
I'd go Ruddock, leave Van der Fleer on the bench, Scott Penny and Quillen Durst.
Right.
Yeah,
Why not?
Go with that. I wonder if they play Sexton,
Oh, I think definitely, yeah.
I think they will, yeah.
because he didn't play many games over in Japan.
Not a huge. He didn't have a huge amount of
Unless he's got a niggle.
He
Like,
played 2.5
playing.
matches,
Yeah.
I think.
Unless, as you say, unless they want to. Yeah.
So, so we take on Connacht. Connacht got off to a pretty good start as
They have
well.
done, yeah.
Like they've won 4 from their 5 games. They're on 19 points. Won behind Munster, I think, who are also on 4 from 5. Just quickly looking at some of the other fixtures. Edinburgh take on the Dragons.
Edinburgh going to win that.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Are
Ospreys.
they at home? Edinburgh.
Edinburgh at home, yeah.
Yeah, well, they're definitely going to win.
Ospreys Kings.
Ospreys
Ospreys.
are definitely going to win that.
Zebre Glasgow.
In Zebre.
Yeah.
Might be closer than you think, but
If Glasgow have the Scottish players back, then Glasgow.
should do it. Yeah,
Cardiff Cheetahs.
that'll be interesting.
This is where things get interesting because the Cheetahs have been ripping sides apart
At home,
in South Africa. Now they've come north.
they've losing bonus points in both their games up here.
It'll be interesting to see what they do.
They were robbed against Connacht. Well, they
weren't robbed, but they were.
They lost in the last minute in a heartbreaking fashion. In fact, in the 83rd or so minute, they lost. So, the Cheetahs could well give Cardiff.
It was a metaphorical rather than a literal robbery.
Yeah, they could easily give Cardiff a good bit of a surprise. So yeah, who else have we got
Scarlets Treviso.
in Scarletania?
Yeah.
That's got to be Scarlets.
And finally Munster Ulster, the other Irish derby.
That's a nice little derby, tasty morsel in Thomond Park, is it?
Mm-hmm. No, it's an independent park, isn't it?
Oh, is it? No, couldn't be. An Interpro down there?
Could be wrong, but
I don't know, but I'd say Ulster will want to at least not humiliate themselves the way they did last time they went down south. Because they were absolutely feckin' destroyed.
Yeah.
But I don't... It's hard to know who's back.
Munster are going well. They're top of their conference.
Ulster are going pretty well as well.
Ulster
Ulster are going pretty good. They're second to us, yeah. But not only are Irish teams 1-2 in both conferences, but if you put a combined table together, they're 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're looking at Irish rugby at a provincial level is looking good.
Munster the edge because of the home side.
Yeah.
And the fact that they absolutely destroyed Ulster last year.
It's funny when you put it like that, and even Connacht coming in and taking the other Welsh European spot, shall we say, with them only getting one qualifier. It's funny how Wales continually get to semi-finals of World Cups. They perform very well at Six Nation level. They win Grand Slams.
Club Wales.
Yeah.
Club Wales, isn't it?
Yeah. I want to know what the effect of the departure of Gatland will have on that. Will his replacement, we know his replacement, Wayne Pivot, be able to engender that same spirit?
You wonder if there's going to be a little bit of rivalry from him coming from, say Gatland came from outside the system, 15 years ago, had no affiliation to any of the other clubs within Wales, whereas his replacement has obviously coached Scarlets. So you wonder, the way there's always that rivalry. Say when Kidney was in Ireland, there was a little bit of he's not 100% giving Leinster the 50-50 goals, and vice versa with Joe maybe.
And bad knowledge that is here, it's always a million times worse in Wales.
Yeah, but you wonder if there might be a little bit of.
Maybe it'll depend because he's losing some of his staff as well, of course. Or some of the Gatland staff is going with him.
Yeah, Howley's gone, obviously.
McBride's
coming over here. And also the defence.
Sean Edwards.
Of course.
Yeah. Where is Sean Edwards off to? France, isn't it? Has it been confirmed though?
Yeah.
He's just been.
Has it?
He's just said France.
Yeah, he just said France.
So
France.
I don't know whether that's France national or
France the country.
Mate.
Well,
Conor O'Shea has left.
You'd have to think that McBride is already ensconced in Dublin 4 at this point. I know Wales had a bit of extra time.
I don't know because they were on my flight coming home on Monday.
Right.
So
who?
The Welsh national team. So perhaps
you don't know when his contract was up. You see, his contract mightn't have been up until the end of the World Cup.
Yeah.
Which means he only would have got back.
Well, I know. I heard an interview with Sean O'Brien recently, and he was contracted to the IRFU to the end to the end of the World Cup.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So once that match was lost, his contract was done.
Yeah.
And I presume it's the same thing with McBride.
He's also injured.
Once the tournament is over, Jay.
Okay.
Injured until 2020 anyway, Sean O'Brien.
Yeah.
As it turns out.
So that's it anyway, boys. Thanks very much. Thanks a million for watching. And if you are following on Facebook or Twitter, give us a like and a thumbs up. Thanks very much for watching. Cheers.